Hello, hello, Claire Berry here. Again, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit more about paleo today. I'm just so happy on my high carb, raw, mostly raw vegan diet that I want to talk a little bit more about this because I know I've been putting a lot of, raw vegan propaganda out there, and I've had actually some people, you know, a lot of paleo people on my feeds lately. So I'm realizing this paleo is maybe a bigger fish to fry than the Weston A. Price people, because the Weston A. Price people seem to be like extreme health underground people, whereas the paleo people are trying to lose weight. And I'm out there to help everybody, but I definitely want to help people who are trying to lose weight because I definitely feel like high carb, mostly raw vegan is absolutely the way to go for so many different reasons, and we'll get into that. One of the first things I want to talk about, somebody on my feed said, "Oh, I don't care what people say about paleo, it's helped me to cure my IBS." And I said, I had to pitch in, I said, good for you, congratulations. However, when I went off highly refined, white trash, white carbs, when I took those out of my diet as well, I also felt all my IBS symptoms disappear. And I did have quite severe, to the point of almost being ready to go to the doctor. I was reading about it and said you had to have symptoms for over about a year or so before you can really even be diagnosed. So I was doing a lot of supplementations and different things. I got like peppermint oil to help with digestion. I got some stomach acids. I thought maybe my stomach acid was getting low. I just tried to like self-diagnose and everything. So, but as soon as I stopped eating, as soon as I quit my preschool job and didn't have to eat those lunches anymore, it went right away. And because I had never really eaten a lot of, white trash foods at home, so bam, it was easy. So, that right there, just because a diet happens to have some good things inside of it doesn't mean that the diet itself is good or good for you. You can lose symptoms in one area and still be hurting your body in others. So I just want to really make that clear here. Just because you see one thing that is getting healthier, or just because maybe you happen to be losing weight, doesn't mean that it's a great diet for you and doesn't mean that it's healthy. Okay? So the other thing that happened on my Facebook page here, and I'm going to have to look at this a little bit. Sorry if I look silly. It was a Mind Body Green, who I had liked before previously, and I hadn't actually seen. I think I hid them because I didn't agree with some things, but I wasn't quite ready to unlike. When I saw this article, they got the unlike right away. Mind Body Green. And it's funny because this article is actually written by Kressler, and I absolutely recognize this guy's name from some anti-vegan works. He's a paleo guy, and I'm pretty sure he's been quoted by some Weston A. Price people as well. So we have a paleo guy here writing for Mind Body Green about why critics are dead wrong about the paleo diet. And I thought this is really it's a humorous article when you get right down to it. Number one, and I have numerous major issues with this article here, but the basis is that he is kind of countering this in January, this U.S. News and World Report had issued an annual ranking of diets. So they took 32 different diets, and paleo was last. Okay, it was very, very last. It was tied with the Dukan diet, which I'm not sure what that is. And it says, "Oh, how reliable are this? Should you take it very seriously?" And then he writes a very, very short-sighted little PC opinionated article with very little facts that he wants to keep people on paleo because he's got paleo interests. Obviously, he's written, he has a program, Your Personal Paleo Code, blah, blah, blah. He can't be having, studies come out like this against his diet, can he? Just the fact that, the U.S. News and World Report is coming out and saying paleo is dead last here. just on the basis of taking U.S. and World's News Report versus Kressler, which I'm not exactly sure what his credentials are, but he's not a doctor, doesn't have a PhD in anything. He may have a master's in science. I can't tell what those are. I'm not very good at reading, abbreviations here. But he's propaganda. He's trying to sell a product. He's trying to sell stuff. So when you have U.S. News and World Report versus him, it's like, oh, gee, wonder who we should listen to. But let's get right into it, shall we? Number one, and he goes along, I guess there were 7 different criteria that they're, comparing all these different diets for. So, number one, how easy it is to follow, which he contradicts himself. There's only 3 paragraphs here, and basically he's saying that it is easy. It's easy to eat this. It's vegetables, blah, 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 blah. And he also lies to you straight out, and he says most paleo experts advocate a wide range of foods, including, all the fish, meats, and non-starchy vegetables. And then he goes on to say starchy plants like sweet potatoes, nuts and seeds, and even modest amounts of non-paleo foods like full-fat dairy, potatoes, dark chocolate, and alcohol when they are well tolerated. So this is not accurate at all. I mean, I'm not going to say that I haven't seen paleo people say that you can cheat, because yes, I have, but he's contradicting himself right there, because if you're allowed to cheat on paleo, you might as well call it the 5-2-2 diet, where you eat, healthy for 5 days and then you get to binge whatever you want on your cheat days. Like that, if that's part of your program, then that's what your program is, not paleo. The paleo diet is not made to be this cheat plan. And the fact that he's trying to say that, even just because some paleo experts say that, that's not what it is. The paleo diet is high meats, the nuts and seeds maybe, and even saying that starchy foods are okay, that's not what I've heard. You go to Livestrong, for instance, and check out potatoes. I just happened to stumble upon this article. Potatoes are not paleo. It says it right here. Paleo, they say that it excludes potatoes, including sweet potatoes. And this is, by the way, livestrong.com/article, potatoes, the paleo diet. Just look it up. Proponents believe potatoes were not available in Paleolithic times and that they are too high in sugar. So there you have it. Basically, Chris Kressler is trying to lie to you. Now, it does go on to say that some modified plans do allow sweet potatoes, but not white potatoes. So, and I've heard that as well. And you know what? That's not paleo. That's a modified paleo plan. And even if I didn't want to be so picky about that, still, he's flat out lying, because he's just trying to say potatoes, starchy potatoes. Okay? That's crazy. So where on one hand he's saying it's really easy to follow, on the other hand he's actually saying it's not easy to follow. The modifications, you can have your cheat days. Cheat days are not following a diet. So that's my 2 cents on that. I mean, get it straight. If it's easy to follow, you don't have to cheat. And that's one thing about going high carb vegan. I've been eating a high carb, mostly raw vegan diet, and I have not even really, I've cheated maybe a tiny little bit, mostly out of this, and it's been little tiny bites. As soon as I do it, I'm like, oh, no thank you. I don't have any cravings. I've been doing this for over a month now. I'm out of bananas and I'm craving my bananas. Like, that's the only thing I want. I have quit alcohol for the most part. I may still drink socially with friends occasionally, like once or twice a month, if that. I used to have alcohol around every single day. I used to be a big chocolate person. Pretty much every time I went to the store, I'd get dark chocolate because I thought it was healthy. I don't crave chocolate. It should be about that time of the month. It's maybe TMI. I have not been craving chocolate whatsoever, even any time during the month. Even when I have a really high stress day, I'm not like, where's the chocolate? Give me a beer. None of it. I don't smoke anymore. I don't smoke marijuana anymore. maybe socially, if that, to me, that's it's a little bit different than craving it and being able to stay on a diet. But I'm not craving, in fact, when I see foods right now that I used to eat, I'm turned off by them. That's what a good diet should do for you. You shouldn't have to cheat. You shouldn't feel these cravings if your diet is so good for you. And we'll come back to that later. So number 2 is short-term effectiveness for weight loss. So with this one, I'm not even going to argue that much, because I've seen some people. I have seen some people on YouTube, and this is what I go by, like real experience, real people. I've seen some people on YouTube lose some weight short term. I've seen them lose a lot of weight short term, really fast. So I know that that aspect can work, and I know that there, with low carb diets, there is some validity to that. However, does that mean it's good for you? And furthermore, does that mean it's going to stay off? And also another aspect is, does that mean it supports your lifestyle? Are you able to work out? Are you able to, live in this high stress world at a good capacity? Like, are you feeling less stress? Are you feeling good? Are you able to cope with stress while you're on this diet? Those sort of things which you have to take into consideration. And when you're feeding your body, when you're feeding your cells with high carb fruit, you actually deal with stress better. You feel amazing, and you have a lot of energy to work out and just go about your daily life. And I can attest for that. I'm having 2 deaths in the family here in 1 week, and I had, one of them is really unexpected, and it's really, really hard to go through. And I feel, I lost a friend last year, and this is a family member that I've lost, and I've known them both for probably equal amounts of time, and close with each of them, and I am just mentally dealing with this a lot better. I'm amazing myself, actually, at just my ability to handle stress, not only big stress, but little everyday stresses of being a mom. I mean, I'm a single mom, no child support. I run my own business from home. I have my kids full time, and I can tell you my stress has gone down. So you should be able to not only lose weight short term, but do it well. So that's something that I could definitely argue against. Now, number 3 is long-term effectiveness. Sorry, my dog's going to town on his bone over here. Long-term effectiveness for weight loss. Now, this is where you really come into the gray area. He's saying, well, first of all, it's funny because he says paleo is more satiating per calorie than a Mediterranean diet. Well, and a low-fat diet, and I don't know where he gets that information from, but actually the most satiating food in the world is potatoes. So you want to take my high potato diet versus your little to no potato diet, which one's going to be more satiating? Yeah. So he's just saying, magical words here. This means paleo people are less likely to eat without effort, which is the holy grail when it comes to weight loss. And it's just a bunch of talk. This is all it is. Basically, if you look up all the stories that all the people who lost a bunch of weight from paleo, you won't be able to find many long-term people who've stayed on this diet and kept the weight off. I challenge you, leave me in the comments. I've seen a bunch that lost a bunch of weight, and I've even asked them, like, have you kept this off? Like, I can tell by their posts, it's been a year, it's been 3 years. Miraculously, they're not on there anymore. They're not still posting videos anymore. So this is what I look for, real life evidence to me. So, things can happen. Like I said, let me know if you know somebody that's kept the weight off long term. But actually, when you look at like the grandfather of paleo, long term, been doing this, he's fat. So when I look at people eating a lot of carbs, long term, Harley Johnson, Durian Rider's been doing this for 11 years. Freely's the fittest chick I know, or know online. And, she's been eating more fruits than anybody probably in the world for the past 6 years. So to me, it's got to be over 5 years or so. A lot of these guys that, say they're all paleo, they've been doing it for a couple years, and they're cheating too. So long-term effectiveness for weight loss, no, not so much. So, and then we come down to nutritional completeness. And before I even get into his little write-up on this, I just want to go back to the cheating. If it's so nutritionally complete, why do they need to cheat? Why are they modifying the plan? Why is it just not a good plan in the first place? If you have to modify it, it's not a good plan. If you have to add potatoes, that's saying the whole thing about being low carb doesn't work. So wake up, people. It doesn't work. If you're going to say potatoes are good, just say potatoes are good. But most people wouldn't say potatoes are okay on this diet. Your average person off the street that's just trying paleo is not going to know that potatoes are okay, and they're not going to stay carved up, and it's not going to last. And also, it's not feeding their cells. When our cells run on glucose, when we need carbs for our brain and every function in our body, it's not nutritionally complete. And like I said, when you're having a nutritionally complete program, you don't need to cheat. Your body doesn't want to cheat. And that is what happens when you drink your smoothies, when you eat your bananas, when you eat your mangoes and your fruit. Your body feels so good. You don't need to cheat. You don't need any of that. So the next thing, I can't even put my smoothie down hardly. What he says about this, the only thing he says about nutritional completeness is that he compares it to the Slim Fast diet, which was actually number 13. And he compares some ingredients in a Slim Fast shake versus eggs and meat and all this stuff. So I find that really funny because he's just obviously selective sampling. This is not even a good argument whatsoever. Surely he could have come up with better than this. So he's saying, that meats and fish and vegetables and everything, and of course he throws those starchy plants in there again, like sweet potatoes, even though that's not paleo. He just says that, these have a lot of nutrients. And, he's correct in saying, I would say that those nutrients in these foods are better than probably Slim Fast, yet that doesn't mean that the whole diet is better. You can't just compare two little different ingredients and two little different foods and compare them against it. And you can't say that you can't take one food out of the Slim Fast diet and, compare it nutritionally to all of the foods from the paleo diet and even the modified paleo diet. So he needs to really stick to what he's talking about. And he also wants to talk about a study on nutrient density. If you want to talk about nutrient density, why didn't you pick, and in fact, I haven't even clicked and gone to see what diet won yet. That might be another video. But the most nutrient dense foods on the planet, I know a lot of Weston A. Price people like to say that their diet is so nutrient dense, and actually it's not. If you eat a lot of liver, like your nutrient of like one, vitamin A is going to be through the roof, and that's why they think they're so nutrient dense. However, across the radar, across the board, fruits and vegetables are by far more nutrient dense than any types of other foods whatsoever. So that's, you can look that up. And then moving on to number 5, we talk about potential for preventing and managing type 2 diabetes. And he goes on to say that, the contemporary hunter and gatherers, don't have a lot of type 2 diabetes. And yes, but then you're contradicting yourself, because the traditional people that you want to talk about, the Aboriginal Australians and everybody else that you're going to talk to, they're not eating those chocolate bars that you're allowed in this paleo cheat diet. They're not eating that ice cream that you can have on your cheat day. They're not drinking all that beer. And they're also not going to be eating the oils that is allowed in the paleo diet. I think that's something that people, oh, such a misconception. I had a guy at CVS. I talk to this guy all the time. He's always there. He's the checker. And we were buying the potato, the French fry maker. And he starts telling me how good it is for you to make your French fries instead of frying them. Just put them in there with some olive oil. And I had to give him a little lesson. I'm like, sorry, we won't be using any oil. Olive oil is not a health food. Just because the Mediterranean diet was better than, the regular diets. I mean, people just take any little thing and they run with it because people publish these articles. The only reason the Mediterranean diet is any better is because olive oil may be better than using butter and everything else that you're using, and GMO, soybean oil. However, did you know that Mediterraneans also eat a lot more vegetables and a lot less meat? Yeah, look it up. And also, did you know that using no oil is way better than using even olive oil? Olive oil is just fat. That's all it is. It's really not got hardly anything else going for it. So don't even get me started on the oil. And paleo is allowed to have oil. So when you have all of these things, also, I've talked about this with Weston A. Price, you cannot compare these people and say that it's their diet. Can't compare hunter and gatherers and say, oh, well, they didn't have type 2 diabetes, and then the next one is the same thing, heart disease. It's their same argument. They worked out all the time. They spent 1,000 calories per day, whereas even paleo people who are working out, which I know it's pretty hard to work out when you're undercarbed, but people in this day and age are spending like 1,000 calories per week versus 1,000 calories per day. That is why they had less heart disease, and again, when they're cheating, they're not going to go ahead and, go to Burger King and get the white carbs along with their fat. And so one thing that these people don't take into consideration is the combinations of types of food that they're eating. Learning a lot by reading 80-10-10 by Dr. Doug Graham. And one of the things that you learn first right off the bat is how fats, regardless of the type, will actually coat all of your cells, and they will stay in your bloodstream for up to 24 hours. And that can really hinder a lot. And it also definitely doesn't help with the whole insulin situation. It covers up everything. So you're not able to get the sugars out of the blood. Fat is the problem, okay? Fat is the problem. You can look up a lot of people right now who are they have diabetes and they're eating a lot of fruit and they do fine. So get educated, people. Don't listen to these, little websites and these little pages of people who are just trying to sell their book, The last one, I talked about heart disease. Again, it's the same thing. And then safety. There was another conclusion that was particularly hard to swallow. How can the diet that evolved? Again, this isn't the diet that they evolved on. Cheating on chocolate and beer and all of this stuff, GMO beer nonetheless, it's not the same diet. That chocolate that they're gonna, they're probably not even good chocolate. They're probably eating crap chocolate with oil, fake oils, hydrogenated, who knows what, refined sugar, all together at once. And then they're trying to say that's the diet. It's so easy because you can cheat on these foods, but yet this is the same diet that people have had for 2 million years. It's BS, okay? Yeah, you don't need a chemistry degree to understand that, but I really hope that people will wake up and realize that these people are contradicting themselves in the same articles, and it's crazy. It isn't safe. These people were not eating the same types of foods. They're saying, oh, you can eat as many burgers as you want, just, make sure and throw that bun off. Guess what? These people for 2 million years that may have had less heart disease and, may have been healthier, they didn't eat the same composition of food. They were eating wild animals that had much less fat. They weren't being factory farmed and fed themselves, and even grass-fed beef still has a lot more fat than your wild animals out there. So wake up. This is not the same diet. Just because they call it the paleo diet and it's loosely based off of Paleolithic people doesn't mean anything. And furthermore, the people who ate the most meat, the Alaskans, the Eskimos, they had cancer, they had heart disease. Just because they looked better, just because they were more fit, because they worked out a lot more, doesn't mean they were actually healthier. And just because some dentists went out and, thought that they were healthier, doesn't mean they were. It's not a real, actual study. So please educate yourself. If you know people, that are going on paleo diets, urge them to look into it a little bit more. Tell them about the high carb diet, because this is something you don't hear about. You don't hear a lot of mainstream, people talking about paleo, because and he mentioned something about the studies too. Oh, there's all these studies. Like, he even said most studies, are saying that, saturated fat, blah, 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 that whole argument. No, those studies are funded by the dairy and cattle industries. So don't forget to check author affiliations. I know I'm repeating myself, but it needs to be heard. It needs to be said. So eat your potatoes, eat your fruit, take care of yourselves, get out and exercise, and yeah.
Yeah.
Peace.